Today I'm going to be watching this video. It's called 11 Australian Words That Confuse British People. So yeah, I'm British, interested to see if these confuse me. Of course, I watched a lot of videos about Australian words, slang, phrases, things like that before, and it's always very enlightening, enjoyable for me. I love it. But let's watch this. We can see if they're confusing.
When I first came to Australia a couple of years ago, I was super cocky that I would know the lingo. Why wouldn't I? My wife's Aussie, I had loads of Aussie mates, but when I actually set foot on Australian soil for the very first time and I started chatting to the locals, I realised I didn't know a bloody thing. I thought Aussies just shortened everything, like Arvo, Devo, and even us Brits do it with some similar words like brekkie. But then I started hearing words like docket and onya and thongs. Like what? I actually had
I don't
no
think I've
clue
heard of
what people were
docket and
saying to me.
onya before.
This woman said, "Do you want your docket?" And I just froze. I did not know how to respond. And trust me, the words get even stranger than that. So make sure you stay right until the end of the video, because this might make the difference between you looking like an absolute dingo or an absolute local legend on your next visit to Australia. Let's get started. Okay, so the first one is docket. What do you think that means? So it means receipt, which I had no idea about. I was at a shop one day and I was asked if I wanted my docket. I think I froze for a few seconds and then eventually said no thank you, because I didn't know what the word meant. And usually you can guess what Aussie slang is because it's shortened, like we were saying with Arvo, but docket seemed so radically different from the word receipt that I had no idea. So that properly confused me. Now I know it, I feel quite smug that I know it, because a lot of tourists don't. And honestly, I only really hear older Aussies use the word docket than younger Aussies. So the second word is...
Yeah, docket I don't think I've heard before on any of the videos. Maybe I have, but I just can't remember. I feel like I know the word docket, and I don't know if this is true, but it's like when you're working and you clock in, you like leave your clocking card in a docket. Maybe that's like a British way of using that word. I feel like I recognise it. I might be completely wrong there. Because I've never actually had to use one of those sort of clocking cards, but I feel like I remember reading that somewhere. But as a receipt, yeah, I've never heard that. Is that, again, you said it's maybe more the older generation that say that. Is that the case? Does any of the younger generation still say that? Onya?
Onya. I'm
feel
pretty
like I
sure
may
this is
have
like
heard this,
good
but I
on
don't-
ya, but I actually think I need to double check with my wife. What does on ya mean?
It basically is like good on you.
Like good on ya, mate.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
or
okay.
like go on.
Why do people take the good bit out of good on ya though?
Australian slang is all about shortening things. Let's take
More
away
efficient.
the good and just have on ya. It has the same meaning
Okay.
in Australian
Good
slang,
to know.
but it's easier to say.
Thank you.
No worries.
So there you have it from a real Australian person. That's what on ya means, and I hear it quite often.
Good on you, mate!
I've started saying good on ya, but I haven't promoted myself to on ya yet. I feel like I'm still very pommy that I can't say on ya yet without it sounding weird. But I say good on ya, no one bats an eyelid. Instead of saying good job or well done, good on ya just feels better in the jaw, in the mouth. It feels better to say. The third word...
Yeah, like if like a British person or a foreigner in Australia like speaks using Australian slang, what do you think? Does it register for you? Do you think about it? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's like cringy? Is there like certain words that you get surprised if you hear like a foreigner say?
Word is thongs. Now,
Thongs, I
if
know,
you're
for
from
sure.
America or the UK, you probably think this is thongs. This is a thong, right? No, in Australia, thongs are called flip-flops. And do you know what? Whenever I call them flip-flops here in Australia, I get ripped into by the Aussies. They absolutely roast me. They're like, "Oh, flip-flops? Oh, can I have my flip-flops?" Calling them thongs is absolutely mental. If I said that in a public place in the UK, I would be evacuated from the premises. That's just such a crazy word to call flip-flops. I don't know the history of it, but if I could hazard a guess, it's because the bit of the flip-flop that goes in between your toes and goes over your toes, it kind of looks like a thong that you would wear as underwear. I'm trying to be more Aussie because I live here now. And so every time I want to say flip-flops, I force myself to say thongs, but I hesitate because it just feels too weird to me. But, you know, baby steps. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, would you mind just hitting the like button below? It really helps support my channel and make even better videos about Australia. Thank you so much. Number 4 is fair dinkum. Now, wait, let me just go consult with my wife one more time. Okay, I'm back. So this just shows how much this phrase still confuses me. Fair dinkum, it can have a few meanings. It can either be like fair play, like, yeah, fair mate, fair. Or it could also be like genuine, so like he is a fair dinkum footballer, for example. I know I've probably butchered that example of it, and fair dinkum in my accent just does not sound right. You need to hear an Aussie say it.
Fair dinkum.
But fair dinkum is such a funny, just the consonants feel strange in the mouth. It's just hilarious. The one I've often heard it being used as is like, are you for real right now? Are you being serious? Like, are you fair dinkum, mate?
Are you fair dinkum?
The first few times I heard this, I was like, what are you saying? Like, what are you actually saying? That I can't even make a connection there. And I literally had to just go check with my wife, and that just goes to show how confused that one makes me. Number 5.
Yeah, that one I think, like, again, seeing it in the clips there, I think that's one that actually made it, like, as in made it into the knowledge of British people through media, like TV shows and movies and stuff, and maybe like people doing like those stereotypical accents and things of Australians. It's like throw another shrimp on the barbie, fair dinkum, and there's these other terms that like when people are doing like an impression, like that stereotypical impression of an Australian, that's the things they would say. But yeah, again, it's like I've seen it mentioned on other videos, but is it maybe like an older generation thing that people say that? Is it still used for the younger generation?
Is lollies. Now, to a British person, lollies are lollipops. They're something on a stick. We would call lollies a lollipop. No, in Australia, they call candy lollies. So like gummy bears and sourworms and Haribos, they're lollies. And my wife, when we first met, you know, when we were hanging out, she'd ask me if I wanted any lollies from the cupboard. And I'd be thinking, what, like Chupa Chups? Like, no, I'm okay, thanks, but I'll have some gummy worms if you have them. She was like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, no, you're not. We've had some very chill debate about the proper words that should be used. I've assimilated and I call them lollies, and I do it for my wife and I do it for my family here. Okay, number 6 is snag or snags. Typically, a snag is a sausage that has been cooked on a barbecue and then placed within a singular piece of white bread, and then generally you have
that's something that definitely needs to be brought to the UK.
Or even both,
Love
dare I say. I might get murdered for that, but that is generally what a snag is. Now, there is a hardware store here called Bunnings, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit like a cult. If you want to be a patriotic Australian person, you have to love Bunnings, you have to adore it, it has to be in your blood. Okay, and something that's actually really, really cool is that for charity, they will do a sausage sizzle right outside of the front doors of Bunnings. You get a snag inbred with some sauce, and you pay them a couple of dollars, and it goes to charity, and everyone's having a good time. But the word snag is just so strange to me. It sounds inappropriate. I feel like I shouldn't be saying that. If I said that in the UK, I would get some funny looks, believe me. Bunnings is so funny. Like, for example, our main hardware store in the UK, I would say, is B&Q, right? And if you like DIY or you're a tradie, you go there. But it feels like everyone is into Bunnings here in Australia, and it's very, very Aussie. The 7th one
Is that true? Yeah, we do have B&Q, but it's just a store. Like, no one really thinks of it as being like an important part of British culture or anything like that. But I have seen Bunnings mentioned quite a lot. Is it that like important? What made it get that place in Australian culture?
Is an esky. Another one I had no idea about, and for months while living here, my wife's family would be talking to me about an esky, being like, oh, do you want an esky? Do you want to bring an esky? I just nod along. I had no idea what they were talking about, and by this point there were too many words I didn't understand and that I was confused about that I didn't even ask. And then later I find out that an esky is a cooler, or otherwise known as an icebox, something that you would put food and drinks in to keep them cool. And of course they are popular here, with a lot of the population living in coastal towns and cities. So, you know, going to the beach, going to the pool, you bring an esky, you got some drinks and some snacks in there, great. But it's just such a confusing one. Comment below if I'm wrong, but I think it comes from a brand name. The same way we call a vacuum cleaner a Hoover, it comes from the Hoover brand. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, I have a free weekly newsletter that's only a 3-minute read. You get local insights all about Australia, no fluff, and I also give you actionable ways to improve and make your life more enjoyable. And you can subscribe to that in one click using the link in the description below. Number 8 is bottle-o. Now, Queensland is one of the states in Australia where you cannot buy alcohol in a supermarket. And as I don't drink, it doesn't really bother me, but my wife and my family and friends, they do drink. So we often have to go to something called a bottle-o, which you would probably refer to if you're not from Australia as a liquor store or a wine shop. Like in the UK, we don't really have them unless they're like a specialist wine shop. Unless you're really into like spirits and wine and stuff like that, you would normally just go to the supermarket and they have a crazy range of alcohol there. You can pretty much get any alcohol at the supermarket. So when I visited Queensland for the first time, it was a bit of a culture shock that you couldn't buy alcohol in the supermarket. I'm like, what? That's so weird. I won't get into the lore of why that is. I'm sure you can tell me in the comments below. So you have to go to something like a BWS or a first choice liquor shop. And it's so funny because you walk in and it's just like, sometimes they're half the size of a large supermarket just filled with alcohol. And hey, if you like a drink, it's great because they've got everything you need there. But the bottle-o is just such a funny word, right? Because it's so Aussie. It's like, take bottle, the container that the alcohol's in, and then just add O at the end of it, like Arvo, like Devo, and it's such an Aussie thing. And I'm not doing these words justice in my British accent, but you should hear the Aussies say bottle-o. It sounds great. They don't pronounce their T's. It's awesome. This word I can get behind, even though I was very confused by it at first, and I still find it a very strange concept to have to go to a separate shop to get the alcohol. Actually, I know it's first world problems, right? But it's really irritating having to go to the liquor shop. Unless you love looking at all the alcohol, it's really frustrating doing your weekly shop at like Coles or Woolies or Aldi, and then you have to go to a completely different store for the alcohol. Anyway, I'm whinging. Let's get on to the next one. The next one is chookas. Now, I'm an actor and a performer, and I've got lots of acting and performing friends here in Australia. And before you walk on stage to do your performance, you will say to each other, chookas. Now, in the UK, we would say break a leg, but you don't say that as much here. And in fact, some people don't really get break a leg. But chookas basically means good luck. I just don't get why good luck is shortened to chookas. All of the words on this list I get, apart from that one, chookas. I've no idea why it's called that, but it's cool. And honestly, it's an easier way of saying good luck. That's the thing I love about the Aussie slang and the Aussie dialect, is that you don't need to use your jaw muscles as much. You can just say chookas, bottle-o, esky, fair dinkum. All of these words and phrases are much easier to say than things we would say in the UK, where we're all quite tense in the jaw and everything's at like the front of the teeth and the lips, because we're all quite tense and reserved in the UK. And if you've got an Aussie mate who's about to go for a big job interview, on their first day, about to go do a performance, say chookas to them and you will impress them easily. Number 10.
That's very interesting. Again, like, that's not... I've watched so many videos about Aussie slang and I've never seen someone mention that, I'm pretty sure. Chookas, and again, like, to begin with, it sounded like maybe quite specific, like break a leg. Like, saying break a leg's not something I would say a lot. It is more people who are going to perform somewhere, something like that. Usually you'll just say good luck, but then he said it's used in more different things, like people going for a job interview. So is this like, yeah, a common thing that people say? Is it maybe just a regional piece of dialect from Queensland? I think he said he's living. Chookas, yeah, have you used that before?
Is pants. This is crazy. I'm still not fully behind this one, but pants, just like they use in America, means trousers or jeans. It doesn't mean underwear. If I said pants in the UK, everyone would think I'm talking about underwear. And if I said, yeah, I'm just going to take my pants off, now I guess you still wouldn't say that in Australia, but if I started talking about my pants in the UK, everyone would be giving me really strange looks, because they'd be like, why is he talking about his boxers right now? That's really weird. So it feels very American to me. I've started calling them pants more here now, but again, like with esky, I hesitate. Like with thongs, I hesitate because it feels weird saying it. Number 11.
Yeah, that's one thing here in Malaysia, when they're speaking English, they'll call it pants, because like some of the English they learn is from the British English, some's from the American English, so you get this like kind of combination. Like my son started saying pants in that way. I just won't say it. I'll just say trousers all the time. Sometimes he's saying like, Dad, where's my pants? Something like that. He's wearing them. He's just looking for his trousers, for another pair of trousers or something like that. But it's like, I don't know, man. I feel like I failed in a little bit, man. Like using these Americanisms to to say words like. What do you think? Is it from America? Is that where this version comes from?
Is duna. What do you think that is? We would call it a duvet in the UK. You know, the big thick blanket you put over yourself at night when you're sleeping. But my wife, she won't let me call it duvet. She loves me and she's very understanding. The compromise was that I have to call it a duna. And so I do. Honestly, guys, I feel myself becoming more and more Aussie every day. Some days, I even forget the word duvet. But honestly, I need your help, guys. What Aussie words did I miss out of the list? Please actually help me below for my own sake.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure there is a lot more. There definitely is from the videos I've seen. But, yeah, surprisingly, I've not heard a few of them before. So that's pretty cool to learn new ones. Just wonder how common these ones are actually used. Yeah, tell me what you think about these. Thanks.